Okay, well, what are you saying about it?
A lot of people don't believe in dreams, but I do, because when me and Austin, my husband, first got married, we hadn't been married too long. And I had a dream about me and him. I thought that it was dark. Well, it was day at first, but we was walking together, and I dreamt we was walking, holding hands. I dreamt there's a road that just went right straight into the heavens. I thought it was so pretty. And I dreamt we was walking, and it all at once got dark. And as it got dark, I thought me and him, we got closer together. You know, we had our arms around each other. And then I dreamt that there's a voice just like thunder and said, I want to show you my son. And I dreamt the whole world just lit up. It was so pretty. The sun was shining so pretty and bright. And when I looked up, I see Jesus a-coming. And when I see Jesus a-coming, well, we walked till we met him. And when we met him, I dreamt Austin shook hands with him and just put his hand out on Jesus' shoulder. And I dreamt when the time I got up to where he was at, I just fell down on my knees. I reached out like that with both hands and got him, by his big robe he had on. And then I waked up and I dreamt that dream, and I remembered it for a long time, and I'd tell people about my dream. But raising my children, having 6 children and all that, I'd sort of forgot my dream. But the night that Dr. Shelley come in and told us that he only had about a couple months to live in, and he was eaten up with cancer. And when he come in there and told me, I couldn't speak, because all I could see was Austin with Jesus. And he was shaking hands with Jesus, had his arms around him. Well, me and my youngest son, Clovis, we took off and went out to the lobby. And Austin was just jerking, his body all over. We went out there and we prayed and cried till I got to where I could talk, And now I come back, and when I come back, then when I would get him by the hand, why, he would calm down all the time, every time. And I couldn't leave him for 4 weeks. He stayed in the hospital, and I never even went out for anything. I bathed, ate, slept, everything in there. And I believe that when I went back and I told my pastor of the church about it, and he said, the Lord was preparing you for his death even when you all was first married. And dreams there's a lot of them that they say something to them. Some dreams you have, if you have a dream and it don't bother you, then you know that there's not nothing to it. But if you have a dream and it bothers you, then you know there's something to it. And I've had a lot of pretty dreams. I've had a lot of dreams to guide me. I've got a lot of my songs I've got out is about dreams. About the death angel, a lot of people, never went through death. I never have. When I was little, I died and stayed out about 4 hours. But, I dreamt of dying. And I dreamt when I died that my life was like a book. And each thing in my life, as it went over, as I prayed. And I dreamt I died. When I died, my eyesight, my nose, my feelings went up to the ceiling, and my body was laying down here dead. I could see myself laying there. And I could see my husband and my mother and my father and all of them around. And I had the dream, and I loved it so good, I thought, well, now, if that had really been true, I'd have been with Jesus. And then as time went by, then I made me a song about the death angel. I've not sung it for a long time, but I love the poem or song. I used to sing it about the death angel. And the way I made the song, poem, or what you want to call it, was last night in a dream the death angel came. He took my soul, but I felt no pain. After I had died, I had nothing to dread. In his spiritual body, I was looking down at my body that was dead. I could see my husband, my mother, and dad, to leave them brokenhearted. It made me feel so sad. I wanted to speak to them, but Jesus said, no, after you're buried to heaven, you must go. When my body sleeps beneath the ground, no more will my soul be around. It'll go to heaven to sleep to the great judgment day. I woke and I wondered, can death be this way? Yes, I woke and I wondered, can it really be true? Can death be this way for me and for you? I wondered after I waked up, having this dream, I wondered if that was the way. When we die, when we're put down into the grave, we go to heaven to sleep, and to the great judgment day. And when the great judgment day comes, then, you know, we'll be resurrected with the Lord. And I believe in dreams, because when you have a dream, there's always something to it.
Could you tell us about the dream you had? You mentioned it earlier, well, in the film we watched today.
Yeah.
But your mother was pregnant, and you know, do you know the one I'm talking about? The one where you said you heard the music.
Oh, yeah, that was when my little sister, Arnetta was her name when she was born. It was before she was born. We lived in a house, it was a shanty, what people call a shanty. I guess you understand them. Probably these days, they're just boxed houses, you know, covered, the roof slanted. They call them shanties. Back in them days, you know, we just had wooden shutters, you know. We didn't have any windows. And my mother was expecting a baby, and one evening she was getting supper. And I went to the window and looked out, and I could hear music. It's so beautiful. I wish the people could hear what I have heard. You know, some people say they don't believe in stuff like this, but I do. And I could hear the music. It's so soft, it's like water dripping. It's more like these autumn harps, except it's a softer, you know, than what that is. It's beautiful. And the hymns that they play, it's just out of this world. I wished, you know, I heard music different times. I heard the music then. That's the first time I'd heard it in my life. It was before my little sister died. I couldn't have been over about 8 or 10 years old at the time. And then after she was born, and I told Mommy, I said, well, Mommy, I said, me or my sister, little sister, and one's going to die. Me or your baby, which I didn't know what it was, you know. And she said, honey, she said, you just, you know, a little lonely. But I felt the Lord saved my soul then. If I'd have had someone to help me, you know. My parents believed in old regular Baptists, and they didn't believe in children, you know, reading the Bible. They didn't believe in stuff like that back in them days. But I know that's what it was, because I felt the love of the Lord. And then after my father died, then before my father-in-law died, I heard it. I've heard it different times before my people dies. I wished I could just record it. I wish people could hear it. If they could, they would believe, because it's beautiful. It just sounds so pretty, and I heard singing though before before my father-in-law died. I believe it's singing. I heard, because I could hear my father giving out the songs. You know, those regular Baptists, they give out the songs, and so I could hear him giving out this song. It was beautiful, and I think there's a song in my songbook about that. You know, I'm so busy doing my homework and studying. I don't go through my songs like I did, you know, trying to get through my school. And then I'll say, well, I'm going to catch up with that later. But dreams or hearing things. And then some people say that you don't see anything. But I did. I've seen things. And when I went to get my tapes made, I told Angie, Mary Angela, you know, it's Anthony's wife, Tony they call him. When I went up there and hit a short fork, this is the truth. When I sung the songs for Danny Huff, he was the one who made them. When I sung the songs and I come back out, and I got around to my headlight to go up to open my door in my blazer. And I'm telling you the truth, I walked like a drunk person. It was something other just come down over me. I never had nothing made me feel so funny in my life, and I staggered like a drunk person. And I got a hold of my blazer, and I got around to the door. When I got to the door of the blazer, I got inside. And after I got inside, I felt like just like something evil just felt my blazer. And I sat there and I started my blazer, and I got out on a bank, and you know what? My blazer was, the brakes went out, and it was a running away with me. And I got up on the side of the bank, and my blazer sort of turned up a little, and got back down in the road, and it started working just good as ever. And when the very minute that feeling left me, why, I went and my blazer straightened back up. And I was telling one of my sons that, Albro, and he told me, he said, well, Mommy, he said, you've read your Bible, said there's evil spirits. And so he told me, he said, if you ever get in your blazer again like that, he said, pray. And don't leave till you feel better. Because he said, according to the Bible, you know, we have evil spirits out there. And they'll invade you if they can. And you got to be careful. You got to go praying. And I should have been praying that day, because if I had went over the hill, my brakes hadn't straightened up, I'd went over the hill, big mountain, I probably wouldn't have lived. Or either there was a big truck sitting down in front of me, a big truck, Edwin Huff was in it. And he had a big bulldozer down there, and if I'd went down, I'd hit that, or I'd went over the hill. It had to be the Lord's will for me to be here. And dreams, sometimes they help you. Because you read your Bible, you know, they had dreams. We was talking about dreams, you know, in the Bible. Some man had dreamt about something about it in the Bible, but I don't remember now what it was. But you know, so plenty of times your dreams is something other that comes up. It reminds me of my dreams. Some of my dreams I had back time will pop up right now, and that's funny, you know. Like the one, you know, for me dreaming about Austin, my husband, you know. And that was years, like a little being 45 years, you know. And then we turned around, and so it was a warning of his death. It had to be. And a lot of people don't believe in seeing things. I could tell some things that would, I know ain't nobody would believe it, but it's true. I could tell you different things that happened to me. But a lot of people, when you go to church, they talk about heaven and stuff like that, but they don't bring out really the devil. And you all may not want to hear this. So. One time when we lived in Trace Branch, just before Austin died, I'd worked all day and I was very tired. I went in to lay down, and you wouldn't believe it. I looked up, and there was a devil come and got right on me. And I just felt evil. I felt paralyzed. It was a funny feeling I had. It just went all over me, and I felt dirty, and I even could smell the devil. And I laid there in a trance, like he was in a trance, and I laid there all night. And then the next day I worked, I was so tired, and the next night it happened the same way. And when I went back in there, it started back the same way, and I started praying, and I felt the devil, he pulled my soul half out of my body. And when he pulled about halfway out of my body, I began to pray, and I felt the Lord take over my soul, and I see the devil as he turned and went. And I'm not afraid, because I pray all the time. Another thing, people says, well, you don't see things. But now, where I live, up at Malley, I went and back winter before last, I went and was laying there, and I waked up one morning about 3 o'clock in the morning. I waked up, and I was so sick, everything was spinning. Just I could close my eyes, everything was spinning. And I was laying there, I thought, well, now they'll just find me dead. And I looked up and I see the angel. And after that, I don't feel alone, because I feel like I have my guardian angel with me. And that happened to me twice. It's funny, you know, but if this hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't believe nothing people told. And it's true that I don't know, there's things out there. And I see Austin in one evening too. I come home from school, and I said, I just can't go on. I sat down there in the Davenant, and I looked, and I see him coming, and he come and right straight out in front of me, and then just disappeared. But he looked real healthy. He wasn't sick. Some of them said, boy, I'd have made an extra door out of there, but no, I didn't. I thank God that I seen him. And until you see things or hear things like that, why, it's hard for a person to believe it. I told my sister about hearing all that music and stuff, and she laughed at me. And then just before one of her little grandsons got home, they were out in the barn loft playing, and they would play robbers and all that, and they had hay stacked up, and his father helped them fix a rope, to play, on top of that hay. Well, you see, he'd done something bad. They was just playing. And so they went and hung him. And before this happened, she heard the same music. And she come to me and cried and told me, she said, Florida, I always thought you was crazy, but she said, now I know you're not. And I can understand anybody and not believe in stuff like that, but I do, because I've seen it. I went through it, It's just a lot. If I'd have known and just thought, I should have sat down, I could go through a whole lot,
Can you, could you, sort of maybe hum the music that you hear, or can you pinpoint,
It's hard to do that. I wished I could. Maybe by the help of the Lord. But did you ever know of anybody dreaming a song? It's on that tape, Eastern Kentucky. My daughter, she left, got married and went up Michigan. And she is gone, I guess she'd been married 2 or 3 years. And she always would play her guitar and sing. She was really good at that. And one night I dreamt of hearing her sing Eastern Kentucky, all of it except that last verse. She sung it. She had the tune, she had put the words to it and everything in that song. And I laid there and I woke up and I just couldn't hardly take it, I'd cry every time I'd hear it. And then after a long time, then I got to where I could sing it. And when I get out, I sung it at Dallas Lloyd College and different places, and people really, they enjoy the song, But if somebody had told me that, I wouldn't have believed it, but you see, I did. I dreamt of that song.
Can you share some of your other visions with us that you've had, maybe, that foresee things that happen in the future?
If I could think of some, yeah. And then another thing happened, people, my husband used to get mad at me and he'd tell me I was a witch. He'd get mad and angry at me because I'd know things, that was coming. When the children all got poisoned on Caney Creek at school, that day, I just couldn't be still. I just known something was wrong. I walked the floor and I went out and I started digging my sweet potatoes and doing things to try to pass off the time. And my neighbors lived next to me, Cynthia and Slone. Shandy called her. She was her garden was right against my yard. And I told her, I said, Shan, something awful's going to happen today. And she said, what? I said, something awful's going to happen. I said, I have walked the floor and I've prayed all day. I said, something's going to happen. I said, everybody on Caney Creek's going to get closer together. And then I said, when it's over, they're going to get just back the way they are. And I went ahead and I was digging my sweet potatoes and was carrying them, putting them down on the floor. And when I come off the hill with the last load, I looked and seen my oldest daughter come and leading my youngest son. He just couldn't hardly walk. And I said, what's wrong? She said, down in school, they taking them by carloads and bus loads, they got poison on some sort of food, in the school. So I got a hold of him and we got him. I just went the way I was, where I dug my potatoes. I had dirt in my shoes and everything. So I went and took him. And time I got back, my other little daughter was sick, so we took her. And and Barker down here in Hyman. I'm telling you, them little kids is everywhere. And he is giving shots, and them are vomiting. And Clovis, the youngest one, he turned real, just right blue, you know. We had to work with him to get him to come to, but they got over it. But things like that happens. Sometimes I could tell you, I could sit down and tell you exactly about the children, how they are. If anything's happening, my grandson, now this happened a couple of years ago, my oldest grandson, it's about 4 o'clock in the evening, and I sat down and I had this feeling just come over me, and I know it is the Lord, and I had this awful feeling that I had to pray for Danny, and I know it is Danny because the Lord showed it to me that it was Danny. I sat there and I prayed till, I don't know how long I prayed. I just prayed till I felt better, you know. And then along about 7 o'clock, my daughter called me, his mother, Jennifer, and she said, Mommy, said, you never guess what happened. And I said, something happened to Danny. She said, yeah. And I said, what happened? And he was at a grocery store shopping. And is a sort of banker, you know, and a steeper little. And his car was here, and he's putting groceries in the back in the trunk. And there's a car up here, a truck or a car one, and it flew out of gear, and it run against him. And when it run against him, you know, it caught his legs. And the cops, they come to get him loose. And when they got him loose, why, that cop said, I can't believe this, said that one of them bumpers was together. And he said, now I know that his legs had to be broke. And when he got the car back, then he looked at Danny, and his legs wasn't broke. And that cop said, now I can't believe that, said, it looks to me like his legs would have to be broke. And then that cop said, well, said the good Lord had to be there, and said somebody had to be praying, you know, be there with him, which I know I prayed. And I take them spells. I can be set not once, just like my Christine, one of my other daughters. She was in Greenville, and she'd go in swimming all the time. And that day, it was long about 4 in the evening, I had the awfulest feeling there ever was. And when I feel the Lord's calling me to pray, I pray. Well, when I went to praying, I prayed, and I just kept praying. All week I prayed. I know there's somebody in trouble, but I didn't know who, you know. The Lord didn't show it, didn't reveal it to me, or what you want to call it. Well, then on Saturday, she called me, and her voice was real weak. And I said, Chris, what's wrong with you? And she said, well, Mommy, said, I just got out of the hospital. And she told me, and it was the very hour that I was praying. And there was a man selling insurance come by. He jumped in with his suit and pulled her out. Well, that happened now. And that's why people always said, now, she's a witch. They get me and say, oh, she's a witch. Then one Sunday, Anthony, Tony, they call him, he was over there, and he was in a bad accident. He was in a car accident. And that day, I went to pray, and it was about 3 or 3:30 or something. And I prayed till I got over it, and I know there's something happened to Anthony. Well, a couple of weeks later, he come over to the house, and when he did, he told all of them about it except me. I walked up and sat down beside him. I said, now, Anthony, I said, I want you to tell me. I said, what happened? And I said, at 4 o'clock. And I told him on the very Sunday it happened. And he went to laugh, and he said, well, Mommy, I might as well tell you. He said, I was in a car accident, and he said he totaled his car. And I said, well, at that time, I said, I was praying. And he said, Mommy, I felt your prayers. And I believe it sometimes, I don't know, it's not me speaking. Sometimes, you know, when you have these feelings. I can't explain them. But I've prayed a many times that I could humble or either bring forth the songs that I have heard played. And I tell you, it's beautiful. And one time when I heard them, it sounded like millions of people singing. And when I was in South Carolina last year, I had a dream this beautiful kitchen in here, you know, And it had big windows here. And out through there, it was so pretty. Them big palm trees and everything. It looked so pretty. And we'd go through here, and you go through a hallway, and I slept in one of them big rooms with the girls. I brought them. We took a big bunch of the youth bunch, And that night I dreamt that I was at this window washing dishes, and I looked out and I see the angels, the devil's angels and the Lord. They were fighting. And I dreamt when I looked up and see them, that there's a big crowd at the other side, at the door, and I was going to run through there and tell them, that there was war in heaven. And when I went through there and I got there and there's this big crowd of people, and I hollered to them, I said, there's war in heaven. And when I was telling them that, trying to get them to listen to the right things, I heard a noise, and I looked up and I see Jesus and his angels are coming. And I know that when I see him coming, I know that I was going home when I waked up. Then I went to church, and this little preacher, I wished I could remember his name, but I can't remember his name right now. He got up there and preached about in this world, he said there was war going on, like the angels of the Lord and the angels of the devil. And he said they was in our soul and was a battlefield, to go through in life. And well, after he preached after the end of the sermon, after the church was over, I went to him and told him, I said, it's in my dream. I said, I dreamt last night of the being war. And he said, yeah, they are. And in your soul, there are a war going on. You have the good things in life, and then you have the bad. And it's hard. It's best to keep your mind upon the Lord, upon the right things, and you're happier. And you can realize, that the happiness that you're looking for in this life, it has to be in the Lord, because there ain't no satisfaction nowhere else, And your dreams is something. I did start writing them all down. I'd write things. But most all the time, but there's a lot of times you'll dream things. Like one time I dreamt of this big bull chasing me, and every bellowing every step of the way. And where we lived at the end of our garden, there was a bunch of them get into a fight sometimes. Well, what had happened, I kept hearing, as I waked up, that bull kept bellowing, and as he slowly waked up, it was this man hollering. So that sometimes around you, the noises around you will cause you to dream things. And then sometimes their dreams is something other that helps you through life, or they do me. I have dreamt things that has been true, but I can't remember any right off. But I have dreamt things, I've always wanted to see my grandmother, my mother's mother. Her name was Betsy Ann. She died when I was about 6 months old. And I felt the Lord saved my soul in the church that she went to all the time, the Hollybush Church, and here in Knott County. And I always wanted to see her. I've heard my mother talk about when she died, about how I'd sit and pull little curls on her hair, Well, it went on a long time, and I've got a story wrote about her. But I dreamt of going to that church and thought she had this big white table. And she had this big white table, and it was a white table linen on it. And it had white dishes. They were so white. Cups was white. And they had a gold ring around the edges, out trimmed in gold. And I dreamt that Grandma was feeding everybody, and she was tickling. I dreamt I eat at that table, which I took it to be a good dream, because I hadn't seen my grandmother. But plenty of times, you dream things. It's really helps you out through life. Yeah, but you can't take them all serious. What I mean, like that man hollering, now that bull a bellowing, sometimes that could cause that,
There was, you said that there was a time, a large chunk of time when you were dead. Your body had stopped functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see anything or feel anything or
I-
remember anything during that time?
I was about 18 months old at that time. My mother's told me these things over and over so much to where I feel like I remember, but I don't. But you dream, a lot of people, if you dream a good dream about the Lord and everything, it's beautiful to dream of that. And I believe in that dream I had. I believe that's the way it is. I don't know, but I believe that's the way it is. If it is, you suffer here in this life, but when you see Jesus, then that's the happiest. I believe the happiest days of our lives here upon earth is when if we are right and meet the Lord. I believe that. Because that's the day I'm looking forward to, because I'll have my family all together. And they won't be separated. See, I have 6 children. One's in Michigan, and one's in West Virginia, one in Virginia, one in Louisville, one in Richmond, and one in Allen. They're scattered everywhere. But it's hard now when I raise my family up. I thought, well, now I've got them all with me, and and I struggle from day to day of working, washing, ironing, waiting on them, send them to school, which I couldn't read at that time. No, I couldn't read nothing. I could read a little, maybe thises and that's and little things like that. That's all. Couldn't read my Bible. Couldn't do anything. But the children, when they'd come in from work, while they would ask me, they'd tell me, they'd say, "Mommy, I'll wash the dishes if you'll make me a poem to take to school." I've made a many one of them. And I'd write them down, and the songs and poems, there's a lot that's in them books, but there's a lot that's not. And then back on the